Okay, so it is time for seasonal DNFs. So I'm the type of reader that I'm pretty comfortable with putting down a book that isn't jiving with me at the moment. I'm a firm believer that reading is my hobby, and I love it, and it brings me a lot of rest and comfort. It chills me out when I've had a busy day, which is every day. So, because I read for enjoyment, as a lot of people do, I'm really comfortable with putting down books that I'm not enjoying. So we have these seasonal DNF videos where we talk about the books that I DNF'd or did not finish. At the end of the video, there will be a poll in the corner of the screen where you can vote on which book you'd like for me to pick up in the following season and see all the way through. It makes it a little bit more fun, makes me push through a book, see if I'm gonna end up loving it, and you guys just get to participate a little bit more in my reading. Last season, y'all voted for My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry as the book that I would pick back up. And I did, and I loved it. And oh, you guys were so right. It was the perfect book at the perfect time. I'm glad I put it down because I was fighting a slump at the time that I put it down, and it wasn't helping because I wasn't digging it. But as soon as I picked it back up, the story started coming together, and it was the most beautiful ending. And y'all were right. So now let's talk about the books that I DNF'd this season. First book was Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, my golly. So this is a book that I actually didn't even mean to DNF. I was reading it and I had another book or two going at the same time, and I just got really into the other book that I was reading and focused primarily on that. And then when I finished that book, I picked up a different book, and I didn't even think about Oliver. It was an accidental DNF. I just forgot I was reading it, and so I stopped reading it. And it wasn't until like one of my commenters was like, hey, what happened to Oliver Twist? And I was like, oh man, I don't know. So this one I do plan on picking back up eventually and reading again, but it's one of those things where when you don't finish a book and you leave it hanging, it's hard to pick back up. Do you know what I mean? Do you have that same problem? I have a hard time picking back up accidental DNFs. And I didn't even get very far. Like, not very far at all. Next, we have Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. So, Jay Kristoff, I'm just not really sure if he's the author for me. Jay Kristoff has a huge following, and I get it. I don't think that he's a bad writer at all. I just don't really think his books are suiting me. I tried Nevernight like 5 times. I finally saw it through to the end and I did not like it. Y'all know this. Then my Patreons picked Lifelike to be one of the books that we buddy read, and I did not finish this. I actually quit like a third of the way through. I didn't even make it to the halfway point, which is usually my DNF spot. I just don't think he's the storyteller for me. When Jay Kristoff writes something, he really goes all out. Like, he went all out in Nevernight with his metaphors and everything. With Lifelike, it was the slang he picked. Now, fantasy books have unique slang as well. They use words like light and, you know. And sci-fi does tend to have their own unique slang, and I don't tend to like it as well. But Jay Kristoff, boy, he went in hard. I mean, he came up with a whole lot of words like clunk, and I don't even remember all of them, but he came up with a whole lot of words, and he used them frequently. But not even just that, just in general, the story wasn't doing anything for me, especially once the love interest came onto the scene. It was such a big case of definitely insta-lust, and it really felt like insta-love as well, which, they're two different things, and one is definitely less offensive than the other. But it was just, I just don't think his writing is for me. I wasn't digging the story. The world was really cool that he built. I was into the world, but I wasn't digging the story. When the romance started, I couldn't handle it, and the writing just wasn't for me either. Jay Kristoff, I just don't think he's for me. But, he's a talented author, so love him if you love him. Romies by Christina Lauren. So Christina Lauren is an author that I have started to enjoy. I like her newer stuff. I know that her older stuff was a little bit more on the sexy side of things, and I prefer their newer stuff. They're an author duo. There's 2 of them. I prefer their newer stuff, which is more focused on the romance and less focused on the bedroom. And Roomies, I really didn't get far enough to know where it falls on the scale, but I just didn't like the story. Yeah, this one was about a girl who has an obsession with a local musician, and he is a street performer, and she's never really met him or talked to him. She just is obsessed with him, and then they have this fake dating, fake marriage trope, which I like the fake dating trope, so nothing wrong with that. But one thing that I don't ever really jive with is when the character has an obsession with a famous person that they haven't met. It's just not something that I really get or connect with. It's not really my MO. And so when I see a character like that, I can't connect with it. You know what I mean? Like I can't understand or get there with the character. So I never really feel connected to the story. Just this kind of story in general doesn't ever do it for me. Again, love what you love. It just wasn't for me, so I quit. Ooh, okay. This one's a little bit of tea. Let me get this book's replacement. Hang on. Okay. So, now we have Memoirs of a Geisha, which I've already returned all these to the library. Well, except for Oliver Twist, because I own that one. So, Memoirs of a Geisha, I took out because I thought it was a nonfiction. Well, I thought it was a mix of nonfiction and fiction. So, I thought it was a memoir. What's wrong with me? So, the note at the beginning of the book says that this author sat down with this woman because she chose him and she wanted him to write it. She wanted to share her story, and she just didn't want to be the one to write her story. And so she chose him, and she sat down with him and spelled out her life with him, or for him, spelled out her life. And he wrote it, and he turned it into, it read like fiction. It was a memoir. He called it her memoir. He called it her consensual memoir that she gave consent to give. Turns out that's not the case. I believed the note at the beginning of the book, but when I was talking about it in a reading vlog, several of you mentioned to me that that's not what happened, and I started digging, and it looks like she did not want him to tell her story. It kind of blacklisted her and messed up her life as it was. She had a big lawsuit against him, and anyway, long story short, she ended up writing her own book. So I returned Memoirs of the Geisha to the library and took out her book, Geisha, A Life. So this is the one that I'm gonna read. I'm sure Memoirs of a Geisha is still great as fiction. I know that it's very highly thought of. I know that it has a movie that a lot of people love. A lot of people get a lot out of Memoirs of a Geisha, but I was looking for a memoir, and that was not going to give me what I wanted, so I just cut ties, and I'm gonna start this one next month. So those are the books that I did not finish this season. Now there's gonna be a poll. So in the corner, there's a little eye that appears right there. You can click on it. It'll drop down. If you're on a phone, then you have to tap the screen as if you're going to pause the video, and then the eye will appear. Click on it. The poll will drop down. You can vote for Oliver Twist, Lifelike, Roomies, or Memoirs of a Geisha, and I will finish whichever book gets the most votes. This video really isn't filled with strong opinions. I didn't really DNF any of these books because I thought they were horrible. I just wasn't digging them. They weren't giving me what I wanted. So I'm fine with finishing any of these books. Vote for the one that you want to see a review on from me. You want to see my thoughts and feelings. I know a lot of people are really sweet, and you're always like, I don't want to make you read a book you don't like. No worries. I do this for fun. It's okay. Just let me know which one that you're the most interested in hearing my thoughts on, and that is the one that I will see through to the end and have some thoughts. Be sure to chat with me more about any of these books in the comments. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon.